Psalms chapter 76. To the chief musician on string instruments, a psalm of Asher, a song. Verse 1. In Judah God is known. His name is great in Israel. Verse 2. In Salam also is his tabernacle, and his dwelling place in Zion. Verse 3. There he broke the arrows of the bow, the shield and the sword of battle. Selah. Verse 4. You are more glorious and excellent than the mountains of prey. The stout-hearted were plundered, they have sunk into their sleep, and none of the mighty men have found the use of their hands. Verse 6. At your rebuke, O God of Jacob, both of the chariots and horse were cast into a deep sleep. Verse 7. You yourself are to be feared, and who may stand in your presence when once you are angry? Verse 8. You caused judgment to be heard from heaven. The earth feared and was still. Verse 9. When God arose to judgment to deliver all the oppressed of the earth. Selah. Verse 10. Surely the wrath of men shall praise you. With the remainder of wrath you shall gird yourself. Verse 11. Make vows to the Lord your God and pay them. Let all who are around him bring presents to his name who ought to be feared. Verse 12. He shall cut off the spirit of princes. He is awesome to the kings of the earth. That was Psalms chapter 76, verses 1 through 12. Now I'm going to read Psalms 77, verses 1 through 20. To the chief musician, to Jethem, a psalm of ashes. Verse 1. I cried out to God with my voice, to God with my voice, and he gave ear to me. Verse 2. In the day of my trouble I sought the Lord. My hand was stretched out in the night without ceasing. My soul refused to be comforted. Verse 3. I remembered God and was troubled. I complained and my spirit was overwhelmed. Selah. Verse 4. You hold my eyelids open. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. Verse 5. I have considered the days of old, the years of ancient times. Verse 6. I call to remembrance my song in the night. I meditate within my heart, and my spirit makes delightfully search. Verse 7. Will the Lord cast off forever, and will he be faithful no more? Verse 8. Has his mercy ceased forever? Has his promise failed forever? Verse 9. Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he in anger shut up his tender mercies? Selah. Verse 10. I said, this is my angers, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember your wonders of old. Verse 12. I will also meditate on all your work and talk of your deeds. Verse 13. Your way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Oh, thank you for subscribing. Who is so great a God as our God? Verse 14. You are the God who does wonders. You have decreed your strength among the people. Verse 15. You have with your arm redeemed your people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. Selah. Verse 16. The waters saw you, O God. The waters saw you and they were afraid. The depths also trembled. Verse 17. The clouds poured out water. The sky sent out a sound. Your arrows also flashed about. Verse 18. The voice of your thunder was in the whirlwind. The lightning lit up the world, and the earth trembled and shook. Verse 19. Your way was in the sea, and your path in the great waters, and your footsteps were not known. Verse 20. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. That was Psalms chapter 77, verses 1 through 20. And now I'm going to read Psalm 78, and that's verses 1 through 72. So that will be the last chapter I'll be doing because that's a lot of verses. I already have my bottled water. Thank you for the subscribers. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate you. That encouraged me to keep going. And this is a compilation. Psalms chapter 78, verses 1 through 72. It reads, Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. Verse 2. I will open my mouth in parables, and I will speak dark sayings of old. Verse 3. Which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. Verse 4. We will not hide them from their children, telling to the generations to come the praises of the Lord and his strength and his wondrous works that he has done. Verse 5. For he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that they should make them known to their children. Verse 6. That the generation to come might know them, the children who would be born, that they may arise and declare them to their children. Verse 7. That they may set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments. Verse 8. And may not be like their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that did not set his heart aright, and whose spirit was not faithful to God. Verse 9. The children of Ephraim, being armed and carrying bows, turned back in the day of battle. Verse 10. They did not keep the covenant of God. They refused to walk in his law. Verses 11. And forgot his works and his wonders that he had shown them. Verse 12. Marvelous things he did in the sight of their fathers in the land of Egypt, in the field of Zoan. Verse 13. He divided the sea and caused them to pass through. And he made the water stand up like a heap. In the daylight, also he led them with the cloud. Continuing with Psalms chapter 78, that was verses 1 through 14. Now we'll continue reading verses 15 through 36. And all the night with a light of fire. Verse 15, he split the rock in the wilderness and gave them drink in abundance like the depths. Verse 16, he also brought streams out of the rock and caused water to run down like rivers. Verse 17, but they sinned even more against him by rebelling against the Most High in the wilderness. Verse 18. And they tested God in their hearts by asking for the food of their fancy. Verse 19. Yes, they spoke against God. They said, Can God prepare a table in the wilderness? Verse 20. Behold, he struck the rock so that the water gushed out and the streams overflowed. Can he give bread also? Can he provide meat for his people? Verse 21. Therefore the Lord heard this and was furious. So a fire was kindled against Jacob, and anger also came up against Israel. Verse 22. Because they did not believe in God and did not trust in his salvation. Verse 23. Yet he had commanded the cloud above and opened the doors of heaven. Verse 24, had rained down manna on them to eat, and given them of the bread of heaven. Verse 25. Men ate angels' food. He sent them food to the full. Verse 26. He caused an east wind to blow in the heavens, and by his power he brought in the south wind. Verse 27. He also rained meat on them like the dust, feathered fowl like the sand of the seas. Verse 28. And he let them fall in the midst of their camp, all around their dwelling. Verse 29. So they ate and were all filled, for he gave them their own desire. Verse 30. They were not deprived of their cravings, but while their food was still in their mouths. Verse 31. The wrath of God came against them and slew the stoutest of them and struck down the chosen men of Israel. Verse 32. In spite of this, they still sinned and did not believe in his wondrous works. Verse 33. Therefore, their days he consumed in futility and their years in fear. Verse 34. When he slew them, then they sought him, and they turned and sought earnestly for God. Verse 35. Then he remembered that God was their rock and the Most High their Redeemer. 36. Nevertheless, they flattered him with their mouths, and they lied to him with their tongue. Verse 37. for their heart was not steadfast with him, nor were they faithful in his covenant. Verse 38. But he, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity and did not destroy them. Yes, many of times he turned his anger away and did not stir up all his wrath. Verse 39. For he remembered that they were but flesh, a breath that passes away and does not come again. Verse 40. How often they provoked him in the wilderness and grieved him in the heart in the desert. Verse 41. Yes, again and again they tempted God and limited the Holy One of Israel. Verse 42. They did not remember his power, the day when he redeemed them from the enemy. Verse 43. When he worked his signs in Egypt and his wonders in the field of Zoan. Verse 44. Turned their rivers into blood and their streams they could not drink. Verse 45. He sent swarms of flies among them, which devoured them, and frogs which destroyed them. Verse 46. He also gave their crop to the caterpillar, that their labor to the locust. And verse 47. He destroyed their vines in hail and their sycamores with frost. That was Psalms chapter 78, verses 1 through 47, continuing with verses 48 through 57. He also gave up their cattle to the hail and their flocks to fiery lightning. Verse 49. He cast on them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, indignation, and trouble by sending of destructions among them. Verse 50. Simba, get out of that trash can. He made a path of his anger, and he did not spare their soul from death, but gave their life over to the plague. Verse 51. And destroyed all the firstborn of Egypt, the first of their strength in the tents of Ham. Verse 52. But he made his own people go forth like sheep and guided them in the wilderness like a flock. Verse 53. And he led them on safely so that they did not fear. But the sea overwhelmed their enemies. Verse 54. And he brought them to his holy border, this mountain which his right hand has acquired. Verse 55. He also drove out the nations before them, allotted them an inheritance by survey, and made the tribes of Israel dwell in their tents. Verse 56. Yet they tested and provoked the Most High God, and did not keep his testimonies, but turned back and acted unfaithfully like their fathers. They were turned aside like a deceitful blow. Verse 58 through 72 of Psalm 78. Verse 58. For they provoked him to anger with their high places, and moved him to jealousies with their carved images. Verse 59. When God heard this, he was furious and greatly abhorred Israel. Verse 60. So he forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent he had placed among men. Verse 61. And delivered his strength into captivity and his glory into the enemy's hands. Verse 62. He also gave his people over to the sword and was furious with his inheritance. Verse 63. The fire consumed their young men, and their maidens were given in marriage. Verse 64. Their priests fell by the sword, and their widows made no lamentations. Verse 65. Then the Lord awoke as from sleep, like a mighty man who shouts because of wine. Verse 66. And he beat back his enemies, and he put them to a perpetual reproach. Verse 67. Moreover, he rejected the tent of Joseph, and did not choose the tribe of Ephraim. Verse 68. But chose the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, which he loved. Verse 69. And he built his sanctuary like the heights, like the earth, which he has established forever. Verse 70. He also chose David his servant, and took him from the sheepfold. Verse 71. From following the ewes that had young, he brought him to shepherd Jacob his people, and Israel his inheritance. Verse 72. So he shepherded them according to the integrity of his heart, and guided them by the skillfulness of his hand. That was the ending of Psalms chapter 78, verses 1 through 72. May God add a blessing to the readers and the hearer of God's word. Remember to grow in grace and read God's Bible every day. Bye bye.